was just wondering if we could do an interview on you, because maybe some listeners want to know more about you.
We could,
Like,
but
how do Square finishes eating? Like, if there's no content.
I mean, we could do that. I feel that I probably have a lot of different stories to talk about.
Okay, okay.
But yeah, I'm happy to that. I feel that we finally caught up with everything that happened yesterday.
Okay. Can I join you?
Yeah, sure. Should I give you more space?
Oh, no, it's fine. So, to begin with...
But you need to be mic'd up, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we can use Square's, that's fine. And we currently have it muted.
Okay. Is my voice clear?
I
have
hope.
No idea. Okay.
We can only hope so. I think it worked fine before, so I would imagine that's perfectly fine.
I'll just interview you, so I won't talk much. So it's fine.
Okay.
So to begin with, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, I'm Psyho. I'm like one of the oldest people doing competitive programming right now. And briefly, I suck at being brief, as probably all of the people know by now. So I'm currently professionally retired for the last 6, maybe 7 years now. I think 6 years. And I mostly do random stuff that I want to. I spend a lot of time doing competitive programming. I did a lot of hobbyist game development. I've built a few escape rooms in Warsaw, in the city where I live. I did a lot of logic puzzle competitions. I worked at OpenAI for a year and a half, maybe a little bit more if you include my contracting work, which is the only job I ever had. For many years, I played poker professionally. I also made a living out of playing computer games for a bit. A lot of weird things overall. So that was the brief version.
That was a lot of information. So, can we start with the escape room? I was interested in that. Have you which part of?
Which part did I do design?
Yeah.
So I'm not good with hardware, unfortunately. And I'm even worse with materials, with building stuff. So within game development, I would say that my specialty is game design, with focus on puzzles and I guess it's usually called subsystems. So like doing a very interesting mechanics, which translates well to escape room design. So I try to take all of my experience from game design to escape rooms, which may feel like that's what everyone does, but it's actually not the case, because most of the escape room designers come from a tinkerer background, where they had some experience with building stuff, but they never done anything related to games. I did that together with 2 of my friends. They were responsible for building the actual space, because as I said, I'm not very good at that. And all of the paperwork, like finding space to do that. And I was responsible for designing puzzles, for building the whole flow, for designing the space. By the way, I know that Japanese escape rooms are quite different from the European ones.
Really?
So I haven't been to an escape room in Japan, but I know that Scrap is
yeah,
very big, and it has locations all over the US. So I've been to a few Scrap places, and also that there is a huge difference between European escape rooms and American ones. And I believe Japanese escape rooms are closer to American ones. So in Europe, the escape rooms tend to be more experience-oriented than puzzle-oriented. So the goal is, especially nowadays, after like many years of, I guess, improved. Okay, well, I'll skip to the next subject. So usually the groups in European escape rooms are, the rooms are tailored towards like 4-person group, and American ones often have this public booking where everyone can come in. I'm not sure if that's the case for the ones in Tokyo, where you have like a public booking that everyone can buy a ticket and join other. Yeah, so there's no such thing in Europe. You book the whole place, and you will be the only people over there. So it's really more about immersion, where you go into escape room and you get this feeling that you are in a completely different place. When the production quality, the scenography is high quality, it really feels that you are like you're no longer in a building in some like a room, but you are transported to something else. And there are subgenres. So in general, I visited I think over 300 escape rooms total, maybe even more. When I do travel, I like to visit escape rooms as like there are a few places where you can find the best escape rooms the best rated escape rooms in all over the world. So I usually like read through blogs and try to find some interesting places. I like to experience unusual things, and escape rooms are one of the, especially the ambitious ones, are one of the better ways to do that. So for example, there are some escape rooms that are horror-based, and if you get to a really good horror-based escape room, this is the place where I would probably swear a lot, but it's a very unique and special experience for example, there was one escape room that I visited. By the way, you've asked me about designing escape rooms, and I'm talking about the escape rooms I visited. Yeah, I mean, my monologues get completely sideways usually. Anyway, yeah, I'll get back to the topic. So I was designing puzzles. I wasn't really doing any kind of a day-to-day job with that, mostly just designing the rooms. Then later, even I figured out that even though it was a fun experience, and along the way I've learned a lot about hardware, so I designed all of the software and hardware in our rooms, including really weird stuff. I can spoil one of the puzzles that I did that I'm really happy about. I used machine learning for that, and that was 10 years ago. Maybe 8-10 years ago, yeah, something like that. So my goal with designing the escape rooms was that all of the puzzles inside of the escape room had to be very much on theme and had to feel like you're actually doing the thing that was required. So no artificial puzzles like please solve this Sudoku. So the puzzle that I'm really proud about is in the middle of the room there was a machine, and your goal was to later it was hacked, but you had to log in somehow. So it was an actual, I used Raspberry Pi and with Linux and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so when you got to it, you had a regular external screen. You had this login screen, and we used a webcam. And on the screen, you would see your face, and I had face detection. So when the webcam, when webcam was detecting faces, it did the standard rectangle around the face, so it was visible that it's tracking faces. And this was a subtle hint that it was subtle hint that the face is required to log into the computer. And what you had to do is you had to take the portrait of the person that was normally sitting in that room, and you had to take that portrait, show it to the webcam, and then webcam recognized that this is the user, this is the person that normally uses the computer, and then it automatically logged in. So that was really cool, and this is the type of puzzles that I love to add. So like no artificial solve this logic puzzle, or like guess the number stuff, or count the number of occurrences that you see of some pictures, but only puzzles that were that felt like this is what you had to do, they were core part of the story, and I did storytelling through the puzzles itself. Yeah, I mean that was a very long answer, but it was fun. But the main problem with that is when you build an escape room, and it was a few years before I joined OpenAI. And so I mostly lived in the US at the time. The issue was that, I built this really cool thing, but back in my home country in Poland, and I'm living in San Francisco, and I can talk about it, but I cannot, it's the same thing right now, I cannot show it. And making computer games is fine because it's software, so if I was making games instead, I could show the game instead of talking about it. And that's when I decided that even though it was a really fun experience, I do not want to do it ever again. Also, the other issue with escape rooms is that when you're building a computer game, it's a virtual space, so you can easily iterate over it. When you are working on a escape room, you have physical walls. You cannot just, I want to make this space bigger. And so after your first iteration, when you do the basic scenography, maybe not scenography, but where you destroy walls or place new temporary ones, you divide the whole space, it's a very expensive process, and you cannot redo it. So after you're done with the escape room, or with the building physical part of it, you're like, I guess that's what I have, and there's no room for iterative process that I was used to when I was doing games as a hobby. I mean, I'm saying as a hobby, but I had my own indie studio at some point. Anyway, that's the answer.
That was a really interesting story. I want to ask more about the difference between Europe and Japan you mentioned earlier. In Europe, experience is more important. And
I mean, with escape rooms, I'm not.
Yeah, in an escape room. And in Japan, there's more paperwork.
They are more, so as far as I know, because I don't have, my experience with Japanese escape rooms is very limited. As far as I understand, you have more this, instead of being this whole, one big experience, it's more like a set of puzzles. But I also saw some of, at the same time, I do, at least some of the things that I encountered in Scrap were very unique. Unfortunately, I don't remember the names, and I'm not sure if they existed in Japan. But so in Europe, the escape rooms have matured, and there are not a lot of experimentation within those bounds of what escape rooms are. So everyone knows what you can expect from an escape room, so no one really experiments with the formula. I mean, the only changes... Yeah, so for example, the one thing I visited in San Francisco that was from scrap was... It felt more like a point-and-click video game where the goal... there were a lot of actors, and every time, or almost like a roguelike, where each run, some of the stuff, like you had many actors, and there was part of the story played, and you had to figure out that if at some point of the story, if I do something, then this will affect the outcome of the story. And you had to experiment with how you talk with the actors, and because they do different actions, like a few minutes later, and the goal was to, I think, avoid something maybe getting stolen, or maybe it's I don't exactly remember. But so it felt very gamey, game-like, and that was really cool. And you would never ever see something like this in Europe, because everyone knows what escape rooms are supposed to be, and well, that's it. So yeah. At the same time, so when I Googled, yeah, I still use Google from time to time, rarely. There aren't that many escape rooms in Tokyo, like very few.
Oh, that's true.
So
yeah.
So how many? What's the population of Tokyo? Like 15 million, 20?
Yeah, around that. Yeah.
It's half of Poland. Poland is 38 million, if I remember correctly. Like, it's enormous, and so in Warsaw, that's the whole metro size is around 2 million. It's our capital city, the biggest city in Poland. We have, I don't want to lie, so I don't remember exact number, but at least at some point we had over 100 different escape rooms. And I'm pretty sure there's less than that in Tokyo. And the weirdest part is that, as far as I understand, escape rooms originate from Japan. This is actually the first place where at least something like this was created. And in Europe, the first country that introduced escape rooms is Hungary, and they were directly inspired by Japanese ones. Mm-hmm. So I don't understand why. And Japan has, as far as I know, largest culture of solving logic puzzles. Like Nikoli is really big. Japanese, half of the puzzle types originate from Japan. Your influence on logic puzzles is absolutely enormous. And Japanese competitors solvers are one of the best ones in the world. Kota Morinishi is, I think he won Sudoku World Championships a few times. So you have, and Ken Endo is one of the best puzzle solvers. A lot of amazing people.
Oh, that's nice to hear. I want to shift a bit more to competitive programming.
Sure.
And so when did you first start competitive programming?
So I think I have a silly story about that in my survey. So there's I did Polish Olympiad when I was in high school, but my so that was really long time ago. I'm 42, so really long time ago. And back in those days, we didn't really have yet a wide access to the internet. which was very problematic because I had essentially no way of accessing the required knowledge to solve those problems. Obviously, they were like way easier at the time, and very little algorithmic knowledge was required. So I somehow got to the like Polish regional level, which was like a few hundred people, if I remember correctly. So I guess, okay, anyway, so to cut this story short, that was my first exposure, I guess, to some form of competitive programming. And then later, I remember, so I studied at University of Warsaw, and that's where Tomek, well, that's where Tomek studied. And Tomek is, an OG of Polish competitive programmers. He is 2 years older than me. His team won ICPC. So he got, and he also won 2, maybe 3 times AtCoder Open in algorithms. So he is very accomplished, and he was like the first Polish person to have some major achievements in Polish competitive programming. So the story is, I'm making this very long, but the story is that we had at our university, we had like a local eliminations to ICPC teams, which were individual, and based on the results, they were assigning us to teams. And so I saw the news that we will have something like this, and I thought, okay, I might as well go. I wasn't interested in that. My whole brain was focused that I want to make games, because that's why I started programming. I didn't really care about algorithmic contests at all. I had no knowledge about algorithms. But out of curiosity, I like to experience new things. So I went there, and everyone from our university was there, so I could talk with this famous person and that won the world championship and like the biggest programming contest at the time. And I mean, I'm not sure what exactly did I put in my survey, but I thought that, oh, he's just a regular human. I could probably do that too. So that was like a point when I thought that maybe it's not that hard. You just have to put some work into it. And I guess I'm telling this story because usually it's way more important for a lot of people that that it's, I don't know how to put it into words, but it's usually very important for most of the people to encounter something along their life, or maybe something that happens very early in their life that tells them that something is achievable. Because otherwise you see those famous people in the internet and people glorify them and think that, oh, they're probably like some geniuses, and and you see those people and think like, I could never ever do something like that. So I was fortunate to be in a spot where like I saw the person that achieved like one of the best things you could do at the time in competitive programming, and it's like, oh, it's just another human. So that was probably the most important like historical thing that happened to me, like the turning point. And then practically speaking, between the first year of my studies and the second one, I'm correct. Between the second and third year of my studies, it was summertime. We were bored because we've partied way too much, and we had no clue what to do. And by saying we, I mean, me and some of my friends, and we thought, oh, well, we might check out this AtCoder thing that everyone on our year is talking about, and maybe it will be fun just out of nowhere. And so essentially I studied competitive programming right before the third year of my studies, which is, as far as I know, extremely late. And when I started, it took, I don't know, several months for me to be like a decent level. And at some point, so originally I only did algorithmic contests because that was essentially the only thing that, the only type of contest that was, well, commonly, I mean, AtCoder had regular matches every once in a week. And at some point, they introduced marathons. I don't remember which year was that, but at first I didn't like those because it felt like work. Because like SRM, which was like the name of the short algorithmic match in AtCoder, was, if I remember correctly, either 75 or 90 minutes. And marathons is suddenly like 1 week long, and you have to like, it's a commitment. And so I think I skipped like the first 30 or 40 marathons because I just felt it's work. I hate working. I hate commitment, and I don't want to do that. But at some point, I realized it's actually fun because a lot of algorithmic problems are more. So maybe I'll try to attack it from another angle. I like open problems. I like problems where I read them and they feel impossible and there is no perfect solution. So it's because it's this process of discovery that you have in heuristic contests where you work on the problem, you test some hypotheses, you implement some stuff, then you look at the results, and then you learn from your mistakes, and each loop of this iterative process gets you closer and closer. So something that feels completely impossible at the start suddenly feels achievable, and it's really fun. And also, I like the idea that at the time I liked to call myself problem solver because my goal was to be able to solve all of the problems, no matter what the problem was about. And in algorithmic contests, there is like a specific class of problems that you're able to solve. And in heuristic contests, there is no such thing. It's essentially unbounded. Like your goal is to create anything that you'll get. So this also meant naturally that when machine learning contests started to being popular, I didn't fully switch, but I started learning about machine learning, and I've done like many ML contests. As far as I remember, I probably won like 20 or 30 machine learning contests as well. And at some point I was living out of winning those. So yeah, that's all. Yeah, sorry for making like really long monologues, but
no, it was really interesting.
The Japanese notes. Oh, it's no, something completely unrelated. It would be funny if it turns out that our mics don't work and we someone would tell us, right?
Yeah.
I hope. We will never know. Okay.
I really totally understand. Like, I'm from an algorithmic background, and like I competed in IOI, and what I really like about those algorithm contests is like there are those elegant solutions.
Yes.
That the problem writers made, and like I really like that part of algorithms. So when I first saw a heuristic contest,
it's ugly. Like
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
is very ugly.
Yeah.
Like it's like you have this random pieces that you try to chain together. The code base complete mess. It's but on the other hand, what I didn't like about algorithmic contest is that you have this cute solution that problem setter prepared, but it's often less about solving the problem and more about reverse engineering the problem. So it's like a puzzle, and you have to. So I'm not sure if it happens nowadays, but at least during my times, knowing the problem author gave you an edge because you knew the design space, the problem designer it was like a comfort zone for them, so a lot of problems were revolving around that. And I guess I just like solving weird, hard problems. So for example, in algorithmic contest, I had the most fun when I did something that was unusual. For example, I still remember a problem where it was a very silly and stupid problem. Essentially, it was one of the early problems that required a fast Fourier transform. Essentially, the problem, the description was you have to multiply those two really large numbers. Like it's like really stupid stuff like that. I hope there are no problems like this anymore, but the early days. And I saw that, and like my knowledge about algorithms at the time was that I knew stuff like this existed, but I didn't incorporate it to my set of tools that I use. But that was already after I had a lot of experience with heuristic contests, and I was always very good at code optimization. And I knew assembler. At the time, I could use the SSE instructions, so I'm not sure if you know, the instructions that allow you to add multiple numbers at the same time. So when I saw that problem, I wrote a simple loop to see that I believe it worked for 6 or 7 seconds for the worst case, and the time limit was 2 seconds per case. And I knew that if I change it I write it down using SSE instructions, it will be 8 to 10 times faster. So I was really proud that I didn't use FFT. I solved it in assembler.
That's so cool.
I loved hacks like that. So those are the rare cases where I had a lot of fun in algorithmic contests. Mm-hmm. Google Code Jam had always, in the past, because they canceled it several years ago, but it always had those very unusual problems. So those are the problems that I like. Yeah, sorry for doing all of the long monologues. Mm-hmm. I have to work on that.
You. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, sure.
So I think you have competed in many kinds of contests, and among those, how do you think about AtCoder heuristic contests, like the quality of their problems, or? Oh,
the quality is really high, without any doubt. Again, I could answer this probably in one sentence, but I will give you a longer story for that. When marathons were created, the design space, the spectrum of different problems that we had was very wide. But the quality of the problems often were low. For example, every once in a while we got a problem where it was possible to solve them optimally, and obviously you don't want to have that. So we had situations where 10% of the people is tied for first place, which is really silly. And over time, the quality of the AtCoder problems improved, but the design space narrowed down by a lot. For example, almost every problem is on the grid, and every problem is about like moving some object, and almost all of them are with full information, etc. And so that was a big issue for me because I came to those heuristic contests to experience new things. And so if every problem requires beam search or simulated annealing, it does get boring. Although I overuse simulated annealing in every possible problem, but that's another issue. And I mentioned all of that because I feel that the problems in AtCoder has, again, much wider design space. For example, there are a few examples of the problems in AtCoder I could name, but it would take even longer. So maybe there are some areas that, for example, from information theory that would never ever get explored in TopCoder, but they did happen in AtCoder. There were also I love the problems where when you read them you have absolutely no clue how to solve them. Like you feel really stupid, which at the same time is kind of funny because I probably solved way over 100 different heuristic problems, probably closer to 200. And it's nice to encounter something new that stumps me, and I feel in a way it's like playing a computer puzzle game where a good puzzle level is that it feels impossible at the start, and then you have this aha moment, and you feel very smart because you solved an impossible puzzle. So you get this same kind of feeling with a lot of heuristic problems on AtCoder, that they feel completely impossible. When you read the problem statement, like I'm reading this, and usually the sentence I would say is that I have no clue how to solve that. And then after you get your intuition, etc., it suddenly feels solvable. Plus, they are different from each other. And I also think that the quality improved over time. If I would compare it to the heuristic contests, well, let's say with low numbers, so like the first 20 or something, they were way more similar to each other than what we have now. I might be biased because I haven't competed in most of them, so I might be off, but it feels that the quality improved over time, which is also great because there's this issue when you have like one problem coordinator like Wata, people tend to have their comfort zone in the design space, and thankfully I don't see anything like that. Obviously, having a if you want to have a problem that looks nice on a visualizer, usually means that the problem will be two-dimensional, sadly. But it's a trade-off. Do you want to have a nice-looking problem so more people will have fun while participating, or do you want to have something less usual? But in a way, visualizers are great, but they reduce the design space by a lot. Like, imagine that we have a problem that's on a completely randomly generated graph that's tightly connected. Like this is impossible to visualize in 2 dimensions because you would have so many edges that would cross. So this is one of the examples of problems where visualize actively harm them.
Do you mean like 2 problems to be similar? Like, do you mean the solutions are similar, or like the statements are similar?
Solutions. I mean, I don't read the story part.
Okay.
I mean, also like every story, I never really understood that. Why almost every heuristic problem features, I forgot, crocodile. Like, why is it the case?
I mean, yeah.
So I can say that it is kind of weird. I guess so. I guess non-Japanese experience of AtCoder is quite different than Japanese. Like we have different landing page, and so maybe it's like we don't experience the whole like the other parts. But so I guess I'm not sure if this is like a cult of personality or maybe it's a running joke or
it's like culture maybe.
Okay,
for us.
yeah, okay. Oh, I remember the last 4-hour AtCoder contest was inspired by Takeshi Castle.
Oh.
That, if I remember correctly, there was like a show in like 90s where there were like I don't know, it was a weird cross of Ninja Warrior with slapstick comedy. I'm not sure how to describe it.
I didn't know about that. I wasn't even born in the 90s.
Yeah. But I mean,
that's interesting.
Yeah. I saw. I think it was based on that, but I'm not sure. Like a very random piece of history of entertainment history.
That's funny. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, sure.
So, how did you train yourself? Or can you like share us about like what kind of results you achieved, and then like how you trained for that?
So this is a question that I get very often. Like, essentially, what the F did you do that you became so good? And I mean, I have some answers. Is that but usually people are never satisfied with them. The basic answer is that you just have to put work. There's no other way around it. So that's one thing. The other one is I'm a generalist. I don't specialize in anything. And I always felt that algorithm contests are very specialized, while in heuristic contests you are kind of, it helps when you are very open-minded, where you don't you don't focus on any single solution. It also helps when you need to have a very strong intuition about what works and what doesn't in order to cut the number of iterations you do. So I know that a lot of people that struggled with that they don't really feel like this idea looks promising, but in the end, every problem is different. For every problem, you have to use slightly different approach. So I often say that I hate math, which is mostly true. And I'm more an intuitive thinker, but I will do calculations if I have to. Like I will use the tools that I'm required to use in order to perform well. So I feel that my main advantage was always that I try to be as open as possible, and then you have those like smaller things. So with algorithmic contests, you have this fixed a short time frame where you're 100% focused. But with marathons, with heuristic contests, you have to kind of compete while your life is happening in between. So another skill is just finding those places where you feel that you're effective, and every hour that you're putting into the contest will actually help you doing something, and avoiding those moments where you just stare at the screen and you're completely useless. I mean, there are so many things. But it's mostly work. If I had to answer why other people struggled, like what were the main obstacles for other people. It was usually giving up early. So I like to compare the whole process to like going to the gym, where you don't get gains unless you push yourself hard. If you always do like 30-40% of your maximum, you won't develop much better muscles, at least not like in a decent time. So it's similar with contests like this. Unless you hit a wall where you feel like really stupid and you run out of ideas, you will never develop those skills where you can come up with any ideas, no matter how exhausted you are. It's, I don't know, maybe just putting myself in many different situations. Hard to tell. And then the same, like, to be clear, like I tried many different mind sports in my life, like the logic puzzles, the playing games, different forms of competitive programming, and I don't feel I'm exceptionally good at any of that. I mean, sure, like I had my results in heuristic contests are, I guess, kind of fine. Like when I was doing AtCoder Opens, I estimated my chance of winning to be around 50% for the onsides. So I felt very confident, and it was more like I just have to not mess it up, which I often did. And by the way, the level of the contestants raised a lot with AtCoder. Like I do feel that most of the people here would, like, if I'm not sure if I'm on the same level as I was like 5 or 10 years ago, because it's harder for me to find motivation, and physically wise, I'm weaker. It's harder for me to sit in the same spot for 10 hours. Like it kind of feels like I'm doing something wrong with my life, and I didn't care 10 years ago. So that's probably the main, like mentally wise, I don't feel any dumper, I guess. But I would have, like, if the people here competed at AtCoder 10 years ago, it would be really hard for me to win. Like they're amazing. But at the same time, onsites are different. People are stressed out. It's way easier to compete at your home than in, I guess it's not really crowded space. So on AtCoder, the venue where the contest happened was usually in the middle of everything, and it was extremely noisy. So people underperformed because they were not used to noise. And so stuff like that. I don't know. So there's no clear answer, sadly. There's no like a simple formula. I really do think that like the most important part is that you have to be your own coach, and you have to be able to figure out what's the thing that you suck at, and you have to improve that even if you don't like it. And that's basically it. So I hate math, but I can do it. I can do calculations if I have to. I didn't like code optimization when I started, but I got really, really good at it. I didn't like writing in assembler, but I got good at it. I had very limited knowledge of algorithms. I didn't know min cost. I didn't know max flow. While I was ranked 4th at AtCoder in algorithms at the time, so it's like completely different times. But I learned it eventually, and it's mostly just work, and it helps to be a generalist in heuristic contests. Yeah, not a satisfying answer, I know, but
Yeah, thank you so much. Like, I believe there's lots of things the listeners, including me, can learn from you. And so you mentioned you're a generalist.
yes.
And you do lots of things. You do competitive programming, mine sports, and you make video games.
I mean, I try to. Let's make it fair. I never published anything, but there were probably over 100 different small, tiny projects. Yeah.
And yeah, so like, you do lots of things. Where does your motivation come from? Like, what is there like philosophy of life, or I don't know, but
I mean, so to be perfectly honest, motivation is probably my weakest point at this moment. But I like experiencing new stuff. So, for example, I was excited to do commentating, even though I know I'm like very far from being good at it. But it was exciting for me because it's something that I haven't done before, and that's so. I guess this curiosity in general about life. One of my lifelong not properties, but attributes, is that I'm very curious about how people work, like how they learn. That's one of the things that pushed me towards game design, because you can look at game design from a perspective where it's kind of like applied psychology. You want to learn how people are, like when you develop a game that has some unique mechanics, you have to teach those mechanics to players, and you have to do it in a very effective way. Otherwise, like, everyone hates tutorials. At least in Europe, I'm not sure about Japanese games are quite different in general.
That's the same, I guess.
So there are a lot of differences, cultural differences between Japanese games and European ones. But that I could talk about it for several hours. So let's not go there. By the way, you are out of the frame. I just realized we are.
Really? Okay.
Oh, because it's a different. Okay, no. I think it's fine. Okay, I will. Where do I take my motivation from? So my main thing is just I like learning about different people, about how they experience the world. So that's my main curiosity. It's also one of the things that drove me towards OpenAI. So first of all, the main thing was the challenge. I joined there for a Dota project when it felt impossible. But with machine learning specifically and AI, generative AI, I'm also interested how AI works, I don't want to go into technical terms like what's the sample efficiency or stuff like that, but I don't know, but that's like, in a way, it's just one form of curiosity, kind of. By the way, a lot of skills that I learned in game design transferred to competitive programming and also to machine learning. I found that, so at OpenAI, one of my main jobs was evaluating models. Big part of what I was doing was literally watching our Dota bot play the game, and based on that, figuring out do we have any bugs in the implementation? Should we modify our architecture for the our machine learning model architecture, etc. So that's, I don't know, it's, if you do a little bit of everything, it's then surprising how many of that connects to each other, and then it's learning new skills becomes way easier because you see similarities. doing logic puzzles helped me a lot in competitive programming because I developed my focus. And it was just way easier for me to concentrate for longer periods of time. Doing logic puzzle competitions are very heavy on... they're asking about OpenAI interview. OpenAI interview will be... We have it scheduled for 4 p.m., so in 2 hours, I hope. I mean, I hope the OpenAI knows that.
Okay, so by the way,
Yeah.
I think that we
Maybe.
back
Okay.
to
Yeah. We
Okay,
should
yeah.
back. The people, everyone is probably asleep. No. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people will be rewatching this, considering like it's right now. It's in Europe. It's 7 a.m. I think. Yeah, it should be 7 a.m. So people are slowly waking up, and they are slowly going to sleep in the US.
Yeah.
Uh,
Is there any question from the chat?
no, they fell asleep.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah, you need mic first.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you very much for the interview.
Yeah,
Really.
thanks. Hopefully it will be fun for whoever is later watching this.
okay,